And we are live.
Welcome all to the Finance Committee meeting. It is September 9th. We have a roll call.
Mr. Fisher,
Yes.
Ms. Kramer.
Yes.
Mr. Michelson.
Yes. All three members are present. Okay, a quick meeting today, hopefully. I put forth a motion to, I wonder why there's no other names over here, just you two. I put forth a motion to accept the previous committee meeting, minutes.
You want to adopt the agenda first?
Oh, yeah, why not? I put forth a motion to adopt today's agenda as posted.
Motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Sorry, that was a motion for Mr.
That
Fisher.
was a
We're
double
looking for a
motion.
second there. So second for Ms. Kramer.
Sure.
And I'll aye.
There it is.
Is there something wrong with the internet? I can't get on there.
It's been very patchy.
And you get it fixed. Okay, I put forth a motion to approve financial meeting committees minutes from August 19th. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Has your name over here?
Well, I was the chair of the meeting.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be approved by me, not by you.
Yeah, it is.
By him?
No, but you.
Okay. We'll both sign it.
I always sign it when you run the executive meeting.
Okay, Mr. Pranoff.
Ready when you are. Okay, for the month of August fiscal year 2024, the village had a combined bank balance of $3,612,537.32. Of this amount, $821,187.40 can be found in the village's primary checking accounts, and $1,138,272.02 can be found in the village's high interest savings account. The remaining balance resides in other village dedicated funds. The village generated $84,102.22 in general fund income taxes. RETA collections are approximately 5% higher than August of the previous year. For the year, the village has collected $760,313.76 in general fund income tax receipts. This continues the approximately 6% trend increase over year-to-date fiscal year 2023. The village received the second biannual disbursement of real estate taxes from Hamilton County Auditor in the amount of $855,538.12. That is unexpectedly early, but certainly appreciated after, if you all remember, the first payment this year was over a month late, so this is approximately 3 weeks early. This is homestead rollback funds from the state have not yet been received, but are expected in September. As for receipts, the village received $476,883.67 in general fund receipts. This number is $336,060.11 more than August of fiscal year 23, mostly due to the early receipt of real estate taxes from the county. The Star Ohio Fund earned $7,479.44. The high interest Fifth Third savings account earns $4,397.63 in interest. Top 5 pays for the month were payroll because of 3 payrolls: JMA Consultants, DPS, Geiler, and Brumke. Total village general fund appropriation spent for the month was in the amount of $280,769.81. This figure is $54,141.55 more than August of fiscal year 23 due to processing 3 payrolls as mentioned earlier. The village had 20 outstanding payments that totaled $76,585.98. Village administration will continue to monitor appropriation spend and make any adjustments deemed necessary.
Thank you. Quick question.
Yes.
Kyler is the 4th. How much did they get paid this month?
What was that?
Kyler.
Geiler.
Could you also remind me what that is?
So that's the
for
HVAC system.
HVAC system.
Got
But it's not broken now, right? This is should be pretty
It feels
good.
a comfortable temperature, so.
That's all part of. So this was the $48,000 was for the access point stage 2 HVAC upgrade, which allows us to control. It's basically there's I mean, there's three parts to the project. That's individual air handlers, plus there's this system that I don't, it's called a JACE. I don't know anything more than that, other than it electronically controls all of the individual zones. And then there's access points within every single room, which apparently has the ability to control the HVAC system. Now, I'm not familiar with the system. You'd have to ask Jim more details on that, but that's what that payment is.
Okay.
Could you remind
For
me?
the record, we are almost $130,000 pumped into this system already.
This year?
No, in the past 3 years. Just for the record, if I would have been in my position back then, it would have been. Next.
Could you remind me, JMA Consultants?
JMA Consultants is the engineer that does all road projects for us.
Got it,
So
that's right.
this would, I can't remember which invoice it is. I'd have to look it up, but
Sure.
JMA has been behind in their billing because they had their main secretary became very sick, and they've been several weeks behind in billing. So it could be that that's for Hamel. I don't 100% know off the top of my head. My apologies, but I can find that out for you if you specifically.
No, I was just curious. I was
Yeah, it's
just
always
forgetting
road
who they
fund.
were.
It's always road fund, and they're the ones who help us a lot with the OPWC grants as well. They do a lot of those applications for us, so they certainly earn their money.
Mhm.
Certainly earn their money.
Thank you.
Star Ohio.
Yes,
Where what's the interest in that up to now?
it's 5.47. I want to say was the last time I checked. It's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and it's not in the report because this all happened. We received the county funds on August 30th. So that's why there's so much money in the bank account. Like, I knew how much money was in there, how much we needed for the rest of the month, and I like to maximize how much money is in the savings account so that we get that extra $500 to $1,000. So we received that payment on the 30th. We were only able to start transferring the money in at the beginning of the following month. So I did transfer all but about 200,000 of that 833 for the month. So the Star Fund is, I mean, you'll see on the next report is holding it a much nicer, much healthier number.
Eric, I have a question on your financial dashboard,
Yes,
the one with all the graphs.
yes,
Is that, so we're in fiscal year 24, correct?
yes.
Okay, so when you've got on these graphs, fiscal year 22 and current month, fiscal year 23?
I've changed those like 4 times and it just doesn't always take. Those, it's last year, this year.
Okay, that's
I'm
what I
not
thought,
really-
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, I've made that change several times.
It
and-
probably just
and-
reverts back.
Yeah, I don't know why.
The question I had though, when we're looking at the revenues and on your other page earlier.
Which page, the current month page?
Yeah, where you've got, the page. There's no page.
Revenues and expense budgets.
Yeah. When you are breaking all of that down and we've got the trends comparing it to the month the year prior,
Yes,
I'm just curious, the percent of trends year to date. Does that make sense? So like we are 5.3% higher on income tax in the general fund
yes.
from August to August, but year to date.
That would be
You know what that-
6.1.
I think it's right underneath.
That's
the
next one.
Okay,
Yeah.
just-
I try and keep those as clear as possible,
Yeah.
but I didn't give them labels. I know it's not the most obvious. I figured you all would appreciate those.
No, I do, thank you.
Are you referring to page number 39?
They don't have the
With the
ones,
graph, with
the graphs.
To me, it says 23, 24.
Mine said 22, 24.
Look at the bar graphs, David.
Oh,
Yeah, the
graphs.
problem is that changing the data of the actual bar graphs, there may be some titles that reverted one time that I did it. I can fix those for the next time. It's not all that
I
hard.
do a lot of reporting in my job. What I've started doing, instead of putting years, I put current year, prior
Oh,
year.
so I started doing that. I actually have, you'll notice many of my graphs are like that, but
Because it's the worst updating it year over year over year.
but it's easy. You can do it with find and replace, and there is an easy way to do it. I just, whatever. But yes, that is correct.
I don't know.
I might have a question, go on though.
No, I was just gonna thank you and move on, but yeah, another question, go.
It was just about the expense side. Yeah, trying to see a year. Never mind. Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Next, we wanted to discuss.
So I mentioned to you about police vehicle expenses for next year. I'm not sure exactly where to put this, but I think it makes sense to start in finance because it is a finance issue. It has been brought to my attention that current vehicle repair expenses have far exceeded previous years, and just the actual vehicle expenses are so high that it's becoming more expensive to keep these cars on an annual basis than it would be to replace them. I'm going to refer you to the appropriation line item. So this is going to be 13 out of 40 on your finance report, and going down to line 1,110,433. So that's repair and maintenance of motor vehicles specifically dedicated for the police department. That $15,500 budget is probably the largest repair and maintenance budget they've ever required. The reason that number is so high is because we are running two cars, which are, one of them is 6 years old, going on 7 model years, and the other one is 8 years old, going on 9 model years. Those cars have vastly outlived their useful life, and at this point, the repair costs to keep them running are approaching 20% of their replacement cost. Now, the reason that's significant is because in 5 years, at current expenses, we will pay to replace them, but we won't have new cars. We'll have the same junk cars. Now, they're not junk, and we're not keeping them that long. But at this point in the year, we have blown through that budget. These cars are old and do need to be replaced. What that does to the budget is we would have to include, rather than just one car payment, 2 car payments for 2025. Now, approximate cost for that annually, since we pay them out over 4 years or 5 years, depending on how we do it, is just under $20,000 for the year. Again, we can continue to pump money in these cars. There isn't anyone from the police department here advocating for this. It's true, but they've showed me the numbers, and I've seen the vehicle valuation forms that score them higher than a 42. A 42 is considered poor and replace it in this current budget year. We can't afford to do that in this current budget year, but I do believe it makes sense to include 2 vehicle purchases in next year's budget. So that is something that I'm just putting on your radar. I'm thinking it makes sense to do that, but at the same time, I don't, it's not up to me. I can include it, but you guys have to be interested in it. So my question is, what information do you need to see that would familiarize you with this issue, or do you not? Are there any specific issues that you have with this request?
I personally would love to see a more detailed understanding of the police budget in general for next year, because I think that I know every meeting they have not come and asked for a police car, but it feels like we've done, 2 this year already? One?
We talked about we did a truck for service.
That has not happened
Well,
yet.
at least in the committee, we talked about it.
Correct. That will be up for a final actual
We
vote.
did spend time on it. We spoke about it at the beginning of the
Yeah.
year.
Correct.
We tried getting an understanding of how we would set up a cycle, and we would like to have one a
Yeah.
year for 6
Right.
6 years. That was the understanding.
Right.
But what they're trying to say is that doesn't make sense to wait.
Because of overspending, yeah. Because we've also sold 2 old police cars.
I'm not sure. I don't have the.
I think it would be helpful for me, the sheet that you gave us with all the vehicles for the
Mhm.
village, including service and the admin vehicle. an update on that with that life expectancy breakdown that you gave would be helpful.
Okay.
And I think from the last month's conversation, we were talking about adding more into the police pickup, for the pension pickup, I believe is what it is. And then there was also rumblings around a raise for police officers. So it would be helpful for me to have a more holistic understanding of what the ask is for the police budget specifically next year. Does that make sense?
I was gonna say the same thing, is that when we had talked about that last time, and we asked them to provide a comprehensive ask.
Mhm.
And so if they could include in this comprehensive ask, which we haven't received yet,
Right,
included the cars in the ask as well,
Right.
just so we can have a one-time discussion for the year, actually budget out and know what we're gonna spend instead of every 2 months and a new thing coming up.
right, yes.
Okay, so I'm happy to put that together for the next finance meeting. I think that that's more likely gonna come from me because I manage all of the finances for that. And I will make sure to include in that the current village vehicles, the pension pickup increase, and the salary increase.
Well, I think in the salary increase, we were asking them to come up with potential frameworks for that as well. Would it be spread out over 3 years? What amounts over specific times? Do they want it all at once? If we give it all at once, what's the plan for the next year?
My understanding is the current plan is to spread it out over 3 years to make it more affordable for the village. I think that makes a lot more sense in terms of longevity. I think that, I've run the model for the 3-year plan. There's no comparison to try and put all of that in the first year is a massive increase.
Oh, I agree. All I'm saying is just we haven't received an actual
Right,
proposal
so-
from the police department, so I don't know what they want.
So what I would put together for the next finance meeting is gonna have that breakdown of what the costs were last year, this year, next year. It'll look very similar to the basically to appropriations, what we look at. And this would be kind of a first draft, so to speak, of appropriations. It's gonna be incomplete because there are other departments that have not been considered, but at least in terms of the police line items, I think we can include that.
Yeah, that would be helpful, and their move, because I believe they're still asking to move
So
upstairs.
my understanding is that there's been no progress on that. I don't know, maybe if anyone else, I haven't seen anything of that sort. I think that project was put on a hold.
I thought it was gonna be included in the next fiscal year ask,
That makes sense, actually. That's correct. It is in there. And that's typically a winter project, so that would make sense why there hasn't been any movement there. We can, that's all in my notes. I can include all of that. But again, it's gonna be all of those line items, what you see, and then you'll see where the increases are, and then I can show you, this is the pension increase, this is the vehicle cost, this is the salary increase, this is the office move.
Yeah, and then do you still have the information where you researched what it would look like if we contracted out the police services?
I never had
Oh, I thought you.
a direct, I have what other communities have received quotes on things like that. I would want to make sure that that kind of a request is coming from the majority of council before doing something like that, because that sends a very mixed message to current employees about the future.
Yeah.
I would not want to do that
I
without having a majority of council.
I hear you. It's just helpful to understand long-term numbers. I'm not suggesting we do that. I think
Right.
it's helpful for me to understand.
Right,
Apples to apples.
I appreciate what you're asking. I would feel more comfortable using historic data, what other communities are paying currently to have similar level of service, rather
Yeah.
than making such a request, because
Yeah.
as we all know,
I'm not
that
asking
when you
to-
ask
yes.
certain questions, it
Yeah, if you
it
can
may
give me-
indicate that you're intending something,
Yep, that's
even
right.
though you don't.
Yeah, if you can give me the historical information, that would be helpful.
Okay.
Did you want me
You
to
could CC me that on as well if you want.
send it to the three of us?
Yeah.
David's like, don't copy me on emails. I need no more information.
No, if I remember correctly, when we glanced at it, at some point, it was not a savings in money. It was-
Yeah, that's what I
cost
recall.
us-
I just, with all these,
It's gonna cost us about the same what our budget is, and we're just gonna get less service for it.
So and the main issue to keep in mind is, as we've just gone through, that income taxes are up 6%. You'll see, and in the property taxes as well, which is the other major piece, we received more than a 6% bump. So we definitely can afford those kinds of, meaning assuming that the trends continue until the end of the year, which I think is a fair assumption at this point. We're finishing, we're halfway through, a quarter of the way through September. With those trends continuing, then we're seeing that the salaries are increasing of people who are working and living in the village, probably more significantly those who are working here, as we've discussed in previous meetings, that a significant portion of our income tax budget actually comes from withholdings, which is majority not residents. But again, the point being that the raises are commensurate with income tax and property tax increases, which we are seeing. So it's not but okay, so that's on one hand. On the other hand, whatever quotes we may see, whatever historic quotes we may see, would also have those kinds of increases kind of built into it once we put them into a 25, 26 model. So, just take those numbers with a grain of salt, understanding that the economy is what it is.
Cost of labor is going up across the board.
One more time?
As a cost of labor is going up across the board, whether it's contracted
Exactly.
or
Where that's
it's
where the
direct.
economy, exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. That's all I have.
All right, the next question we follow up with this is, moving over to Teslas, does that last longer, will that cost, will we save money in the
So,
long run?
I
on
have
maintenance?
I have done significant research in the integration of electric vehicles in the fleet. There is an opportunity through Chevy, which I think probably makes more sense at this point. The purchase of a Tesla vehicle is, I think at this point, everyone's seeing that they're going down in price. The issue is not the purchase price, it's the outfit price. The outfit price, or upfit price, what they call in that industry, is significantly higher than what we're seeing on our traditional build of vehicles. My understanding is one of the main components of why it's more expensive is really because of the carbon fiber roof, which replaces the glass roof on a Tesla. The only way to mount a light bar in a police car is to replace the roof. It's customized lights, it's customized everything on this car in order, because there is no police package, there's no police version that comes from Tesla.
Some departments that have Teslas.
It's fewer than you'd think, but they're expensive, meaning it's possible. It's definitely possible to get Teslas. They have them in Logan, Ohio. But the quote that we heard from, it's called the Model PD. So it's a little play off of the Model 3 or Model Y, is that these cars are upwards of $90,000. So all of the savings that we would see in gas are swallowed up in the cost of the vehicle. Now, maybe they last a year or two longer, that might be, but police use of a vehicle is still very heavy.
Do we have the infrastructure to even support that?
It's not difficult. We could install 240 charging stations. 1 or 2 would not cost all that much. Where it gets a little bit tougher is if we would do a high-speed charge. I can't remember what it's called. Supercharge. And those would require a little bit more coordination with Duke. But again, the installation for those things is not that expensive, but it's probably not necessary for us anyway, because if we're doing one shift on and one shift off, 12 hours is plenty of time to fully replenish these vehicles, considering the usage that they get from us.
What I would add to this conversation is, I think I've said this before, and I think to change my mind, I would need some real convincing. I'm not sure it's the best look in our small village to have our police officers driving around in Teslas, unless we have like giant decals on the side say, this saved the village $40,000 annually, whatever it is. Like, I just, if there's a convincing argument for it and the financials are that convincing, I'm open to having that discussion and, having my mind changed. But my gut reaction is I don't think our residents would like seeing our officers. I know I wouldn't like the feeling that seeing them drive around in Teslas, but I don't think it's entirely necessary to their mission.
So
Maybe from a fiscal perspective.
Because you're viewing it as more expensive, but we're trying to find out.
I'm not just viewing it as more expensive, I'm also viewing it as the image the village wants to put out. Are we, there is the hard numbers on a piece of paper, which is why if there's a decal that says this saves us 20 grand a year versus a traditional police car, you know, I'm worried about the messaging out to the community of seeing our officers all of a sudden rolling around in Teslas, and you know everyone's got I just don't like the image of it. Again, I'm open to being convinced. I'm open to having my mind change. I'm always open to having my mind change on anything, but it just initially doesn't sit well with me.
Yes.
Thanks. Two things on that. I think one, you may have just clarified, would it be any different if it was a Chevy? Like, are you thinking that's just the optics because people are used to Teslas costing a lot?
Yeah, if it's like a Chevy
So if it
Volt
was a
or
Chevy,
something.
then you.
So they have a Chevy Blazer is the
Yeah.
model that we would be looking at. Issue is availability. Like
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that you just have to order when it's available, and you can't wait around for financing and all that. Like it's not simple.
Yeah.
Because they go.
Yeah, but I do believe that we should look into these options because they do cost less on maintenance and gas.
It's on everything that costs less.
And
As long as the purchase price is right.
Once we're doing that, if we want to try to get two vehicles in for the price of one, then let's see where we can get the money.
What is the research on
I
it?
didn't know it was in the middle.
I have one more question and one more comment. One was a question about the rollout timeline of this. I'm unclear from the last messaging I had with the police department, what we're looking at, like, are we talking about next year? Are we talking about, in terms of, to your point about the whole fleet of these, is that not gonna happen until like 7 years from now where they're all switched out, right? Or are we talking, so that's one question. The other comment was, this might be offset with climate change if we continue to just get warmer and warmer, but there's the issue about when we're having cold spells, and if we're charging them outside and not inside, is that going to be affecting the longevity or the effectiveness of the battery?
Or the child slave labor
So-
in the Congo to mine this cobalt out of the ground with hammers, you know?
No, I'm speaking specifically to, like, do we need to have infrastructure to Brittany's point where we need to be parking them inside
Cars.
as well as we have a garage for our maintenance stuff and everything. I'm presuming they don't want to move everything out of there. But if we have police cars, I'm thinking we are probably going to want to have a facility to be parking them inside if we're going to be wanting to charge them. That's my understanding. And I don't mean that as like something to say no to these cars. I believe I was the person who suggested this quite a while back to investigate.
There's a lot of things to learn.
There's a lot of things to figure out. I'm sorry, Rick.
Yes, Brittany, go ahead.
My only question was if there is information around the long-term longevity of the wear and tear with the hybrid police vehicle. I've had hybrid since 2008.
You talking about hybrids or electric?
Electric.
Okay.
So with the EVs, with extreme temperatures, but also how our police department operates them, where they're running for long periods of time. I would assume that is adding wear and tear to the vehicle and decreasing the life. Is there information on?
Yeah, there is
EVs?
so there's a lot of information on EVs because like Mr. Fisher mentioned, that this is something which has been researched in, not just research, it's in practice in many places in America. Generally it's in California, but there is in Logan, Ohio, they have 2 Teslas and in different municipalities across the board. The issue of runtime and the issue of constant run is actually where the electric vehicle shines because there's not this constant moving part which is creating all of this all of this CO2, all of this heat. It's just, the only thing it's running is the air conditioning. So more similar to your hybrid vehicle when the engine's off, but it's still running because it's got that juice, right? It's maintaining the temperature, but it's not using the battery unnecessarily. So there's a lot less wear and tear on the battery, a lot less wear and tear on the car. In terms of extreme temperatures, there have been certainly cold spells in Cincinnati where you have maybe a week or 2 in the single digits. We almost never see negatives. These batteries are much more resilient than what they used to be. And in our climate, it's not considered an area where that's of significant risk. That would be more for your Ames, Iowa, your Fargo, North Dakota areas where they're getting extreme cold temperatures for several hours, if not several days at a time. And even in those cases, as long as the battery is charged, you're only seeing, let's say, 20 or 25% degradation off the top for a short period.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not reducing the longevity of the battery in terms of its life. It's just its capacity under those extreme temperatures is reduced.
My only thought is, I'd love us to go to hybrids or EVs, whatever. That's great. I think it's great for the environment. I have a hard time, I guess, prioritizing that over any of the other infrastructure needs that we have in this building. What did you say, 130,000 over 3 years for this HVAC system, which is finally at a comfortable temperature, maybe the first time since I've been here. We just have so many IT and tech problems and building maintenance issues that have been deferred, that the police going to electric would not be my priority. But I could be convinced if you give me an economic breakdown that would speak to that.
I think
That was my question.
Yeah, I think that's the goal here. The initial excitement over a Tesla, I think, fizzled out pretty quickly once they showed us numbers that it would swallow up all the gas that it wasn't consuming in the initial purchase price. I wouldn't make a recommendation if it wasn't saving the village at least 5% per vehicle. And I think the numbers are a lot higher than that.
Great.
I think they're a lot better than that.
And that's when you're looking at the Chevy, correct?
So again, I'm
But
not
that's good.
closed, I'm not even close to the Tesla. If we could get a used Tesla for the price of a Chevy, and then in the end, the upfitting, meaning I look at the price of the police vehicles, not just the vehicle, it's the $20,000 to $40,000 to outfit it. If my purchase price is somewhere in the 60s to 70s, which is what a regular internal combustion engine costs, so then I'm saving $3,000 or $2,000 a month in fuel. That's not maintenance, that's fuel. That's savings, not just usage, because the electric is about 25% of the cost. So that's a significant savings. Once I'm in that price range, I'm much more comfortable. If I can get lower than that, great. If I can't, I'm still okay with it because it's not costing us more, it's only saving us.
The next question is, did you ever look into, or did you ever see if this federal grant for EVs that were for?
It's unclear to me whether that applies to a municipality making the purchase. It's still unclear to me. I haven't gotten any clear answers that does apply.
Would a senator know?
Potentially,
Did you reach out to Lansing's?
I can reach out to.
I can reach out to Greg.
Okay, I mean, if you can. Again, it's not super clear to me that is applicable.
Sorry. Excuse me.
But I would think that that's again, I'm looking at it as whatever the cost is the cost. If the federal grant applies, then absolutely we should be taking advantage of that. If the federal grant is what's making or breaking the deal, then we probably shouldn't be doing it. It should make sense before the federal grant.
Correct.
Yeah.
But it's something to keep in mind.
Yeah, no, it's not lost on me by any means. It's just, it wasn't clear and I was more focused on building the models. But yes.
All right, thank you for that, Eric. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Our next meeting is a big topic. I'd like to move the meeting to the end of the month, as discussed previously. We do not have yet a proper calendar up on the table, how to go forward with our meetings. But I would like to have our financial meeting at the end of the month, that we could always be 1 month ahead, not have to go back 2 months.
So are you asking to have another meeting towards the end of this month, or are you skipping and asking to have meetings at the end of October?
October is a complicated month because of the
Yeah,
the Jewish
the holidays,
holidays.
yeah.
So, as of now,
could you do the 28th?
I think that would work for all of us. That's after Sukkot.
Yeah, that's, yeah,
right, the 28th, I think,
or
we
the,
have to do council then also. So as of now, let's call for the 28th, October 28th as our next finance.
Do you want 6:30?
Let's do 6:30 for now.
I'm just saying that's what I had in my agenda for something, for tonight, I think it was, for some reason. So it should be Monday, October 28th at 6:30, or do you want 6 p.m.?
Let's do, any questions about what we're doing that night? What other meetings we're doing that night? Let's call it for 6, and if we have to change it, we'll change it.
okay, so finance committee meeting, we're moving from October 7th at 7 PM to October 28th at 6 PM.
Correct.
Correct, okay. Are you also making a request to move executive? Do you have an issue with the October 7th date, or would that still work, since you two are both on my executive? And we close that meeting without me announcing.
TBD.
Oh, yeah, I'm getting thrown off.
You could announce the executive in this. Oh, it's in?
It's on.
It's on the agenda? Okay.
So it's fine. The 7th should still work.
Okay,
Yeah, tentatively it works for me. I just forgot my phone at home, which has my real calendar on it, but I believe that should be fine.
well, it should be on there already, so hopefully it's still good. All right, so we'll keep it at the 7th. If something changes,
I mean, the whole thing has to be revamped, but I think that's a bigger conversation.
that's my
Today,
conversation for me.
I'll go forth a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Let me end this real quick.
All right, so full council on the 23rd?